If you're a young parent with young kids, these are 4 essential steps you should be doing with your kids right now to avoid when they grow up, they become complete strangers to you, they don't listen to you. This is drawing from my own experience coming as a child from my first generation parent that came to Australia. When I grew up, when I turned 18, I didn't want to listen to them. I wanted to fight back for whatever they want me to do. Whatever their point of view, I just want to rebel against them. And these are the 4 things you should do to your kids, which my parents obviously didn't do to me, which I'm trying to change the generational curse. And hopefully these tips help you. Before I list the 4 things, which by the way are quite productive in my own opinion and has helped me a lot with my relationship with my kids, is to recognize this premise. And that is, as a parent, your child has a credibility meter built inside their little hearts. And the credibility meter is from 0 to 10. And this credibility meter that sits in the child's heart or subconsciously is based on 3 pillars, which is how much they trust you, how much they love you, and number 3, how much they respect you. Now, based on this premise, if your kid's credibility meter of you is, for example, 10 out of 10, I would say to you right now, they're most likely going to listen to you, right? They're most likely going to come to you for advice. They're most likely going to respect your boundaries. But for example, if you're a type of parent that, for example, gets off your temper really easily, you're mad all the time, you're bossy, right? You're sitting on your high horse, you're talking down at them. Or every day you're just preaching to them, you're on your high horse, talking down to them. You're preaching to them about logic, how the world works, how it should work. Like for example, over here, right? Your kid did something you don't like, you're like, talking to them about the logic, the way it works and how it should be, all that stuff, and all your kid here is blah, 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 blah. Naturally, your credibility meter is shifting down to 0. And if your kids have near 0 credibility with you, they likely don't trust you. They likely, have to love you, but they don't really love you. They probably subconsciously hate you, and they usually don't respect you. And imagine if you have young kids, for example, I have young kids 5 and 7, and my credibility score with them in their hearts is around 3 or 4, and every day I'm doing the same thing. Every score is 3 to 4, 3 to 4, and when they're by the time 18, all the score adds up. And say for example, by the time they reach 18, they're ready to go out, do their own thing, and their average credibility score throughout the years of you being their parent sits at, for example, under 6.5 in terms of all these criteria. They will just treat you like complete strangers. There is no way you can influence them in any way, shape or form. And these are the 4 things you need to do right now to avoid this. To summarize these 4 steps, first, the golden rule is whatever happens when they do something wrong, don't immediately just attack them for their faults, alright? And then later, back up with don't do this, otherwise fill in the threat. That type of parenting style, put an L over it, is a total failure. Don't do that. Instead, do this. For example, whenever your kids do something wrong or there's a bad behavior that comes up, don't immediately attack them, threaten them or ask them to change. What you should do is just look at them for 10 seconds. I call it the 10 to 20 seconds self-reflection time. For example, one of my kids came back from school and said the F word, right? Normally you just blah, 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 why you say that? Blah, blah. No, I just stare at him, right? I got down on my knees and I stared at him for 10 to 20 seconds. Didn't say a word, I just stared at him. Total silence, stare. And in that moment of silence, when I'm like, that time, that self-reflection time, that moment of silence, this encourages your child to basically get into self-reflection mode. Am I wrong? What's wrong? It then also allows them to reassess their behavior. Is Dad mad? He looks kind of mad. And this could be for any types of bad behavior that you recognize in your kids, alright? And what happens, your goal is not to just go blah blah and blast them and tell them to change or whatever and preach and all that stuff. You're trying to give space to your child to develop self-awareness and also to develop empathy, where they start to self-assess and actually observe from how I'm feeling. Did I do something that is making Dad unhappy? And the next step that I'll do is I'll calmly express my feelings, my point of view. For example, just then insert your kid's name and go, what you did, insert whatever activity. For example, my kid, swore, said the F word, and then later go, hey, what you just did made me feel, insert your emotions. For example, I'm very disappointed. I'm upset that you said such a negative word that I don't appreciate in this house. And the purpose here is to reinforce how I feel based on their behavior and making sure that they recognize that, they've hurt my feelings. And then thirdly, what I'll do is I'll calmly request the desired behavior. For example, next time, can you not use the F word when we're talking in a conversation? And then step number 4 is obviously I'll offer them like alternative words to say to when they're frustrated or whatever. Rather than using the F word, they can use sugar or whatever word that swaps the bad behavior that they're currently doing. Then what I'll do, I'll actively acknowledge them. I'll actively praise them. I'll actively encourage the new behavior, swapping the bad behavior. Even for example, in our next conversation, and we got into a disagreement, and he just starts to say the F-U-C-K word, right? But he didn't say the F word. He nearly said it. I'll still need to pick up on the effort. There was a 10% change. In that way, I'm trying to build mutual respect between each other through agreement. And if they do the right thing, I'll encourage them. If not, then I'll have a hard chat with them. But in no means that I will start shouting at them. I'll start arguing with them, right? I'll start to fight with my kid. And 100% don't hit your kids or manhandle them, okay? And don't blackmail them, okay? This is what all body first generation parents do, right? When my parents did all of this, like got me back of the house, tied me to a tree and whipped me with a belt. Well, not that worse, but there was a lot of smacking involved. Because guys, when you do these 4 steps in any fashion and form that you choose to do it, but as long as you have these elements, your credibility score would probably tend to go up because you're diplomatically, respecting them as a child, and respecting them that they can do what you want them to do in a very calmly manner. And this teaches them that you love them, but you also have, a set of tools to assist them to manage their emotions. And therefore, through a set agreements and set boundaries, they feel much more easier to navigate through life and through different people, right? Because that's how they are going to treat other people, by the way they treat you or the way they see you treat them, right? Otherwise, if you're just resorting to blasting your kids for whatever they did that you don't like, well, they will learn these set of skills and pass it on to their children. Thus, from one generational curse of, ineffective way of parenting is then passed on to the next generation and unfortunately to the next generation. So guys, yes, a long video, but I don't know. Jump in the comments, let me know what you think and if you have anything to add.